Welcome back to Against the Cage. Scott Fontana here with Mackenzie Dern, who will face Virna Jandiroba for the vacant strawweight title at UFC 321 on October 25th. So, Mackenzie, you and Virna, you're both mixed martial artists, right? I just want to jump in right here. So much of your success has getting to this point has come from that standout grappling though. We know you guys because you're submission artists, you're successful grapplers. We don't often see two people at this championship level who are such strong grapplers, right? Your father, Megaton Diaz, he was teaching you jiu-jitsu practically from the cradle, right? So what does it mean for you for jiu-jitsu to be, such a huge component of such a big fight?
I think for me, it's one of the reasons why I got into MMA was to try to get jiu-jitsu kind of to reach the population that maybe no one even practices martial arts, so to kind of get that person that's just starting to think of trying a martial art and then they maybe will see me fighting. UFC obviously is a way bigger platform than than the jiu-jitsu world that we come from. Um, so I mean, that was kind of just my biggest goal to going into the UFC and making that transition was trying to explain jiu-jitsu to as many people as possible, especially women. You know what I mean? And to be able to be fighting for the belt with it, I mean, thinking like, okay, jiu-jitsu is what got me into the UFC, but to be a 100% jiu-jitsu fighter that basically went back to being a white belt again, learning new sport, getting punched in the face, learning to punch, and all these different aspects that come into it that we don't have in jiu-jitsu, and to be fighting for the belt. Also against another very strong jiu-jitsu grappler, opponent. It's really good, and I think that just kind of shows um, like the true essence of MMA, I mean, it started with Hoist Gracie on UFC one. So, I mean, UFC began because of Jiu-Jitsu, so it just, I think, shows how important and represents Jiu-Jitsu in the fighting world and just in the fighting culture.
And of course, I would think, come into this fight with a mental edge, knowing that you have beaten Virna before, right? You got the decision victory 5 years ago, competitive fight. Obviously, both of you have grown as fighters. It's been a long time. We understand that the skills are different, right? But how much of an advantage is it for you to just have that win under your belt? Just her knowing you beat her and you knowing you beat her.
Man, I mean, yeah, I think it's something that if I need it, I mean, I can't speak for her because I mean, I just came. My last fight was a rematch too. Was my first rematch was against Amanda Rivas, and I was on the losing part of it on the first time. So I know that when you're coming in. I mean, I felt like I really wanted to show that I had gotten better and that I was way different than I was the first time. But you know that you did lose, so I can't speak too much for her side. I think that she had such a great role after we fought each other, Virna. So I know that she's coming in really confident. But in the end of the day, I know that like if things get tough in the middle of the fight, there is something that I know that it is possible, because I've done it before and I did it at I don't know, a very much more like raw version of Mackenzie as a MMA fighter, and now I'm like way more involved. So of course the fight, I know she's coming in with lots of confidence. I know she's gonna come with everything. It's worth the belt, she went on like this great role. She beat a lot of the girls that beat me. Um, so I feel like she's gonna come in really, really strong. She's coming from Brazil. She's gonna give everything for this belt. I think she's like 37, so she's really like just gonna give it all. But I know at the same time, it's not like you're fighting someone who like you've never fought before, and you think like, man, do I have what it takes to do it? Like I know what I have what it takes, and she broke my nose the first time, so I know for her to beat me this time, it's gonna have to be something really crazy to get the win too. You know what I mean?
I know you were concerned. I remember in that fight, you were asking Jason Perillo, like, "Is my nose broken?" He's like, "No, no, no, it's fine, right?"
Yeah.
When you go, take me back to that moment where you were kind of trying to figure it out. Like, why were you asking it? Was it just because you were curious, or like, were you concerned that you actually broke your nose?
Yeah, I was definitely like concerned. I never broken my nose. Like it didn't hurt when it happened, but it was like it was loose, like it was moving, and it was like it was bleeding a lot, So I was just kind of, I guess, in my mind, like, how bad is it? Is it gonna affect me in the next round? You know what I mean? They're just like in my mind, I couldn't see it, so I didn't know if there was a big cut. I didn't really just have an idea of how ugly it was. So it was kind of just I was really preoccupied of how it was going to be for the next round and how much that affected the fight. So yeah, thankfully I didn't know what a broken nose felt like, so I just believed in him. And thankfully he's a great coach and he knows the right times to, to get into his fight. I mean, I guess a lot of fighters are pretty gullible on the time that we're in the middle of the in the moment. We're like, okay, yeah, it's not broken. I'm coming out doing like back spinning back fists and everything because I'm like, oh, my nose is fine. After I had like surgery and everything, but it's okay. We got the job done, which is, I mean, it pushed me to see really what I can go through and still come out okay and be happy. I was dancing after, and like only later I found out that it really was broken, like and really bad.
So, I mean, obviously, we've seen that from you a lot. I think everybody, obviously, when you came into the sport, we're all looking at a jiu-jitsu player, right? That's who we're thinking of, a standout grappler. And now you have this other element to you that a very large chunk of your game is that you are game to go in there and throw hands, and you don't mind taking the damage back. I mean, when did you discover that about yourself? Was it that fight?
Oh no. I mean, I think I probably discovered that like my UFC debut against Ashley Yoder that I went all three rounds standing up. I think I just got the takedown like on the like halfway of the third round. And she was like taller. She was like she brown belt in jiu-jitsu. So she had like she was smart on the ground. She wasn't like a white belt or anything, and she's southpaw. So like basically my debut in the UFC was like a pretty tough opponent, that's like experienced in the UFC. And I was just like throwing down. And I really like honestly, I still didn't even know what I was doing completely, you know what I mean? And I see like Bia Mesquita, who just fought in UFC Rio. She's one of our I speak when I say like jiu-jitsu girls because I mean coming from our jiu-jitsu world. Vienna, she's very strong in the grappling, but she never really competed like in our jiu-jitsu world that we come from. So she's like, I guess you could say like the Khabibs, who their grappling are very good, like Khabib, who's like very good at grappling, but they're not like from the jiu-jitsu world, you know what I mean? Or like, so there's like a difference between us who are like very competitive in the jiu-jitsu world and then people who have good jiu-jitsu for MMA and they went really strong in MMA. So you see like Bia Mesquita or Vina, who they have like this really good fight IQ and they're able to get into the fights and like get the takedown really easily, stay out of the wars and unnecessary hits and stuff, battles, and get the submission. And me, I don't know. I feel like when the girls like they fight me, they're just like so aware of going to the cage. They're like running the whole time. I mean, running, point fighting. So they're still touching you, but they're like basically running the whole time and their defense is on point. We get to the ground. They're like just hugging onto you. So you takes time to like to take them off of you and try and do some type of ground and pound. Um, so I feel like they fight differently, you know what I mean, when they're fighting with me. And then I didn't have that fight IQ. So basically, what I mean, I was basically I think I passed through a lot of wars, maybe like unnecessarily, but I think that's what made me deserve like this belt now and just kind of be ready to fight Vienna for it. And I never imagined that a win 5 years ago and how my whole career would go, that would end up setting me up to be fighting for the belt today's day. You know what I mean? So I really think that my journey, not having that style of that, just taking to the ground quickly, like Tatiana Suarez and stuff and winning, but doing those wars, I think it got me a lot of fight bonuses. And I think it really just put my mind where I need to be, where my striking, I think, is really better than a lot of these grapplers. So kind of feel that when I do fight the grapplers, I can kind of win in all areas. And I think that's what the champion should be. It's just like a well-rounded fighter.
Sure, sure. And obviously in that first fight, like we said, a lot of this fight was striking. You were looking to take it down at times. It just didn't go down there. You didn't really get your takedowns that you were looking for. Do you expect that we're going to see some real extended grappling sequences in this rematch here? Make it look like a different fight maybe than the last one? Obviously, you can only control what you can, but how much are you expecting that to actually be a different result this time?
Yeah, I'm expecting it to be different this time because since we did go all three rounds striking and I won, I really feel like her team, they're gonna kind of just like use a lot more cage work, maybe try and like steal the rounds with like putting me on the cage, elbows, knees, maybe trying to steal the rounds with like some takedowns, maybe on the second half of each round. Um, I think she's way more confident in her grappling. I felt like she wasn't as confident to go to the ground with me in the first time. And since she went on and submitted these like tough girls, like she didn't submit Yonshan, but she took her down lots of times. But Amanda Lemos, like the girls who beat me on the striking, she went and submitted them. So I feel like now she's gonna feel more confident to try and take me down, and we'll have these grappling exchanges more. And it's 5 rounds, So I mean, it's okay. I mean, I think anyone who saw our first one, like 3 rounds, we were already kind of like giving it all. I feel like we're both being grapplers. By the fourth and fifth, if it did go similar to the first time, by the fourth and fifth, we're gonna be like, okay, grappling. You know what I mean? So
Go back to that
I did.
comfort zone. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So I definitely think this fight's gonna have a little bit of everything, but I do think it will have a lot more grappling this time than the first time.
Listen, I've got so much I want to talk to you about, but I don't have as much time. So I do want to close out with just one question here is the fact that obviously you're on a two-fight win streak. It's your first win streak in 4 years. Between, things, the results weren't coming as well, right? You lost 4 of 6 in that time. I understand you had a lot of upheaval outside of the cage during this time too, but now that you've got some momentum coming into this fight, how do you feel? How do you look at kind of that period of your career compared to right now where you're heading in the right direction?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's I feel like I kind of been through it, you know what I mean? I've been through a lot and I feel like it's kind of my time, and it just everything ended up like I wasn't even the number one contender, I was like the number two contender, and just how everything worked out with Whaley going up and then it being vacant, and then it was kind of a win from, like I said, from 5 years ago. It put me through, and I really think that just me being, I don't know. I mean, I think even if people want to see me lose or if they want to see me win, I try and have like good fights. I think people see that I'm having, like even in my losses, I had like fight of the night or performances and things like that. So I think it helped me really develop as a fight as the fighter I am today, which I think is a championship fighter. And I actually won here in Abu Dhabi April 25th in 2015, the World Jiu-Jitsu Championship. And now exactly 10 years later on the 25th, but except in October, but October 25th, 2025, I'm fighting for a new belt, but in a different sport, so martial arts or MMA. So for me, I feel like all the stars are aligning, everything I went through kind of just help me to get here, and just kind of you got to trust the process, the ups and downs. But I think Saturday the 25th will be a good night.